I remember a few years ago a mother coming to me when I'd given a talk about femininity and saying, "Is my daughter, is she okay?" I said, "How old is she?" "She's 7. "Yes." "She wants to buy the boys' clothes at Target." And I said, "Have you seen the girls' clothes in Target?" You know, some of the girls' clothes in Targets you wouldn't put on a 15-year-old. And so maybe she's making a statement that I would encourage. In other words, she wants to be outside doing stuff and have practical clothing that she's going to do what she does with. I think it's a really good thing. And I said, "What's her little sister like?" She goes, "Oh, she wears pink and she's a fairy. You know, she has little fairy wings and so on." I said, "Well, I think she's also doing it to show that she's different from her younger sister." So don't try and put adult models of role play back onto little kids like that. And she said, "What about if she grows up and she still wants to wear trousers and denim shirts?" You know what? That's okay. It's okay. We can still see this as part of the wide church of a new feminism. And if we look at the models for new feminism in the church, they're often a wide variety of saints. How do you think this lady would have coped with Joan of Arc? "I just want to go out and fight. I'm getting on a horse. I'm going to fight for France." And she puts on armour-plated clothing. Did she have a role model? Did she need a new feminism? I don't think so. So what I'm here to say is that the new feminism idea is a very inclusive one. It accepts that women have a wide range of temperaments, a wide range of interests, and it doesn't try to channel them into simple one model of femininity. Now, that's just me saying that, but you think of men. Men are able to have a wide range of different types of things. Some are hairy, some are not hairy. I resent a little bit the fact that poor old men now have got to have as much waxing as women. That's not fair. Painful, if nothing else. But it's saying that all men should look like these metrosexual guys. And some men would find they'd have to spend a very long time re-waxing themselves and not do other useful things in their lives. And the last thing that the new feminism talks about is individuality, that each woman is an individual person with her own vocation, and that new feminism wants to defend her vocation from God, that each woman is called to be someone to answer God's call. And one of the great models of that the new feminists often use is the story from Luke 7:37-50, the woman with the alabaster jar. Do you remember that story? Just before Jesus goes up to Jerusalem to his death. She did a number of extraordinary things that give you an idea of what a female role in the church might look like. First of all, while everyone else was fluffing around, she recognised that Jesus was the Redeemer. And you notice that the Pharisee, the religious expert in the house, misrecognised her, didn't recognise her. Women are kind of used to not being recognised from time to time. She also had a very great quality which you will not find in a large number of the feminist ideologies, because it's seen as a giving over of power. What was that? Do you know? What did she have as a quality that you will not find in most contemporary secular feminisms? Do you remember what did she say? What did she do? She recognised her own faults. She was repentant. She said, "I've done this." And half of the gender wars are a fight over, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's passing, it's blame passing, which little kids do. But it's not a sign of a very mature ideology of gender if people of either sex can't acknowledge their own failings. So part of the new feminism is to say, let's look at where it's our fault. Let's look at and say, yes, well, it was my tit for tatting that did that, or my manipulation of that person that contributed to that. It's not all society's fault. Sometimes it is, but it's not all society's fault. The woman with the alabaster jar didn't say, "My mother made me do it." She said, "I did this." She also shows daring love. She doesn't show just kind of, I'll put a bit of money in the plate on Sunday type of love. She does something incredibly extravagant and prophetic. She anoints Christ's feet. She marks him as the Messiah. And John Paul and Edith Stein say over and over and over again how important this prophetic role of women is. In fact, John Paul said, he's not with us anymore on earth, that women were going to be the prophets of the culture of life. If women could speak up about the disadvantaged, the vulnerable, the weak, if women were the ones to do this, then the culture would change. They would be the prophets of life. And that's very strongly in his message about the new feminism, and something that Edith Stein herself said in the 1930s. She said this, and it's very, very interesting how prophetic she was. She was very involved with the education of women. And she said, women, if you just sit around reading stupid magazines, that airheaded magazines, something really bad is going to happen in your culture. Your society is going to, you are just frittering your intelligence away, you're frittering your moral courage away, you're frittering your opportunity to change the society before it's too late. So get active, do something. That's what she said. What happened in that society, do you know? Germany, 1930? Where did it go from there? And what happened to women in that culture too? Do you know? The National Socialists rose, we had the appalling culture of death, and women became instruments in the new Germany. So Edith Stein's encouragement was, you get involved, you do something. So, to end in a second, John Paul's has a model, and many of the women who followed after him as the new feminists, which we can talk about maybe during question time, have several different important models of feminine genius. But the first and most key issue is the idea that women are made in the image and likeness of God, and that that is real. If you really believe that, what consequences does that have for your life? In his theology of the body, John Paul II starts his idea of what it could mean to be made in the image and likeness of God by looking at Adam's creation. Adam at this stage is not just men, Adam is humanity. Adam is a Hebrew word meaning earthman, earth thing, earth creature. And he says what we all have to rediscover is our original solitude as a key. Now, it's a very interesting idea of John Paul's. What he says is we need to discover that our first relationship is with God, face to face, vis-a-vis. Because no matter who else in the world we're going to go on and love, our first relationship is with God, vis-a-vis. Now, many people rush out into problematic sexual relationships because they think that the other person will make them who they are. Quite often they haven't really matured. Quite often they are dependent or codependent. Quite often they're in brutalising relationships, and they stay. When I've asked women in these relationships, and I'm sure Anne here has had a similar conversation with people, why do you stay? Because I won't find anyone else. And you say, but this is a pretty bad relationship. They say, it's better than nothing, because they're desperate for love. But they haven't had the strength to realise that even if they're single, they are who they are, and that they're eminently lovable to God, and that their primary relationship, even in a married couple, your primary relationship is with God, and to yourself, to be true to yourself. And it's interesting that as older Pope as Pius XI says in one of his documents, Pius XI in Casti Connubii says, no woman should ever obey her husband if it makes her lose her dignity. Her identity doesn't get wiped out. Her dignity is important. Now, many women have not understood that in whatever kinds of relationships they're in. So, Imago Dei, the original solitude, is our starting point. We then go from there into fruitful relationships, but of course we return to God.